Welcome back to Insight 2012. We're joined by our congressional panel, Congressman Sean Duffy, Congressman Reid Ribble, Congressman Paul Ryan. Now, Paul, you were saying at the end that, that Republicans need to be very, very clear on crony capitalism. And I asked you right after we went off the air, does your team really get that? I mean, let's be honest about it. You still have a lot of Washington insiders with the K Street folks who are addicted to that sort of crony capitalism.
That's right. In the tax code, in spending, in regulating. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those things blew up under Republican watch. Now, a number of us fought Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, but not enough. And so my point is Republicans made mistakes in the past, and they got confused about their principles on crony capitalism, on corporate welfare. We need to be clear that up. And we need to be in favor of free markets, free enterprise, not sending your money to Washington so we pick and choose winners or losers, but fair play for everybody so entrepreneurs can succeed, so businesses can succeed based on their own merit and their own achievements, not based on their connections in Washington. And so I think we've come a long ways. And you know why we've come a long ways? Because of Reid, Ribble, and Sean Duffy and the other 86 freshmen that came to Congress to help us clean this mess up. These guys have brought spinal injections into Congress, and we are so much farther down the road than we ever were before because of that.
Well, I want to ask you guys about this since you are freshmen in Congress, and I've talked about this before, but isn't it much easier in politics to be the guy that says, here, I got stuff for you. Here's some goodies. I'm going to take care of this problem. Here's somebody, here's a hunk of other people's money, as opposed to what you, I'm supposing, have to say to people, I'm sorry, we can't afford that. The check's not going to clear. We're not going to take care of all of your problems. So, when you talk to people, I mean, aren't people looking for you to solve their problems?
Well, yeah, they're looking for me to solve their problems, or for the government to solve their problems. But it's not as bad as I expected it to be, because of people like this, the people that are in this room here. I mean, the reality is the American people know we've got a mess, and we've got to clean it up. And the American people sent 87 freshman members of Congress to fix it. Yeah. And they're expecting us to fix it, and they ought to expect results.
Okay, now, Sean Duffy, you replaced one of the biggest porkmeisters in Congress. I mean, you replaced, Dave Obey in Congress, who was constantly, was one of the guys who was just sucking the largest amount of money from that public trough and handing it out. You come in and you go, party's over.
So he was the king of earmarks and encouraged everyone else to engage in this earmark process where you can go to Washington and you can garner a number of dollars to fund projects back at home, and that's how you get reelected every year. When we came, before we even started the 112th Congress, our whole Republican conference got together, and I introduced a resolution to ban earmarks for this whole conference. We had about a 3-hour debate, by the way. It was not an easy debate, but with guys like Paul Ryan and the freshman class, we were able to pass that ban on earmarks. And if you think this last year, all the bills have been passed. They've been passed because people believe in the bill, or someone's voting against the bill because they don't agree with the bill. But there has been no Cornhusker kickbacks. There's been no buyouts for people to get a vote this year. And I don't think that gets enough press, but it's a really significant change, I think, in the way that Washington works.
Okay,
earmarks are gone.
Speaking of goodies, we have a lot of politicians in Wisconsin that really love, bright, shiny, fast-moving trains. What have you been able to do with the high-speed trains?
Last year, the three of us voted to eliminate all federal funding for all high-speed rail in our budget, and we will do it again this year as well.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about health care. The famous quote that we all remember from Nancy Pelosi, we need to pass the bill in order to find out what is in it. I'm getting the sense that people still do not know what's in it, but they are getting a clearer view of what's in it. So let's talk about this, Congressman Ryan. Over the last few months, I think people have gotten this, the understanding that if there was any doubt that this was a top-down, one-size-all mandate, that if they had any doubt about it, they were eliminated with the contraceptive issue. Now, by the way, let's talk about this contraceptive mandate. Yeah. Are you winning that message or not? The Obama administration wants to make this into evil Republicans wanting to take contraceptive rights away from women.
We will win this message. Tim Dolan wrote the most spectacular letter the other day with Bishop Laurie, a February 22nd letter. You should post that. This is an issue about our constitutional rights of religious liberty, of religious freedom. This is not about contraception. People can go buy contraception if they want to. Nobody's changing that. This is not about that. This is about whether the government can now mandate that we do something that violates our religious teaching, our religious doctrine, if we have that. So remember the old saying, if you like what you want, you can keep it? Well, ask Tim Dolan. Ask the Catholic Church, ask charities, ask hospitals. Here's what is happening here. It's a part of the president's philosophy, which says if there's a clash between our constitutional rights and these new government-granted rights, the government wins and the Constitution loses. It treats our constitutional rights as if, like the First Amendment right to religious freedom, as if it's a revocable privilege by the government, not an inalienable right by our Creator. That's what this does. People will find this out at the end of the day. And if you think President Obama, who did this, a controversial thing in an election year, what do you think he'll do in rolling out the rest of Obamacare after the election if he wins and he never has to face a voter again? Think about that.
All right, well, I want to talk more about Obamacare, what we're going to find out, including the role of the 14 unelected bureaucrats in rationing health care when we come back. You're listening to News Radio 620 WTMJ. I'm Charlie.